Lesson 4, Chapter 2 is what we're in right now for proportional and non-proportional relationships. We're going to be talking about the difference between proportionality and non-proportionality. And a lot of this, we're going to be looking at a table. We'll also be talking about the relationship between the tables and start determining whether this is proportional or not. So the key word you want to see here is proportional. And I want you to underline the two O's here in proportional, because I want you to understand that if you put 0, 0 here, that if the graph or the chart does include the point 0, 0, which means the number of something to 0 is the other relationship is 0, that means that this is a proportional relationship. Okay, so it also means that if they have a constant ratio between them, meaning that they are growing at the same rate of change, then they are proportional. If they're non-proportional, they're two related units or quantities that do not have a constant ratio going between the two of them. So let's take a look at cost of one CD at a record store is $12. Create a table to show the total cost for different numbers of CDs. And I'm just reading this sentence here. Is the total cost proportional to the number of CDs purchased? And so what you can do, and just a reminder that the number of CDs is going to be our X value. It would be found on, if we were to graph this, it were to be found on the X axis, not the Y axis. And the reason why is because my numbers would be counted 1, 2, 3, and so on. And the cost is dependent on however many CDs I purchase. So the Y is the changing value, the cost changes in direct relationship with how many CDs I am buying. So your CDs is X, your total cost is your Y value. And here's the crazy thing, and this is where people get confused. As we're comparing this, we are going to be putting the cost over the CDs, because if you remember unit rate, cost per one or price per one, the money always goes on top. And you're probably saying, then why in the world does the table have the money on the bottom? And that's because this is a comparison of X to Y, and my changing amount is actually going to be found on my Y axis. So I'm going to put Y, the money, over X, which is the time or the number of CDs or the number of times I'm going to purchase those CDs. So in this case, I'm going to put 12 over 1, and I write 12 over 1. I'm going to put 24 over 2, which reduces to 12 to 1. I'm going to put 36 over 3, which reduces to 36 over 3. And I'm going to put 48 over 4, which reduces down to 12 to 1. That means it's $12 per CD, and this is referred to as my unit rate, which means that the ratios are the same. And since they're all 12 to 1 consistently through it, that the cost is proportional. Now, I talked about up here about it passing through 0, 0. That means if I didn't buy any CDs at all, what would it cost me? And it would cost me $0. So I know that that's a proportional relationship. Another way you could have done this, and we've done this before, is said that what's it doing each time on the Y value? It's increasing by 12, it's increasing by 12, it's increasing by 12. And then we know that on the top value, it's increasing by 1. So plus 1 to get to each of those stages. So my 12 over 1 will be my constant changing happening, or my unit rate. So let's travel down to example 2 here. It says the cost to rent a lane at a bowling alley is $9 per hour plus $4 for shoe rental. Create a table to show the total cost, I'm just reading this, for each hour of a bowling lane if it's rented, if one person rents shoes. So we have to think about shoe costs. We're going to rent shoes. And so it says it's plus a $4 change in a shoe rental, but does that happen every hour? No, you only get charged that one time. And so when we start to look at the relationship of the change, and I put my Y over my X, and again, this is my Y, my money on top over my hours on the bottom, and I put 13 over 1, I get 13. That's just division right there, right? 22 over 11, though, reduces down to 11. 22 over 2. Sorry, I said that wrong. 22 over 2 reduces down to 11. 31 over 3 reduces down to 10.34. Man, this is really getting off. If I take 40 and divide it by 4, I get 10. So none of these answers are the same. And the main reason is because this $4 shoe rental only happens one time. So if I say 0 hours, if I don't bowl at all, am I really paying $0? No, I'm actually paying the $4 automatically for the shoes. So whether you bowl or not, I'm paying for the $4 shoe rental. And so that's why this is not proportional. And I'm going to write here, not proportional. And so we're looking too to see if these relationships are proportional or not. And it doesn't grow at the same rate of change. Those numbers aren't the same, so it's not proportional. Let's look at question 1. A photo developer charges 25 cents per photo that's developed. Is the cost proportional to the number of photos developed? So this is where you kind of have to think about, how am I going to set this up? So what's happening is I'm getting charged 25 cents for every one photo that I buy. So we're going to put here a number of photos, and then we're going to figure out what is the cost, right? So we're going to put here cost in change or dollar amount. So photos. What if I don't buy any photos? What's it going to cost me? Well, gosh, if I didn't buy any, it shouldn't cost me anything, right? If I buy one photo, it's going to cost me 25 cents. If I buy 2 photos, and this just needs to be extended, that's another 25 cents. That'd be 50 cents. 3 photos would cost me 75 cents. Is this going to grow at the same rate of change? Yes. It's going to be 25 cents for every one photo that I buy. And so from here to here, I'm adding 25 cents. From here to here, I'm adding 25 cents. So what would my unit rate be? And that would just be 25 cents per photo. And it says it right there. There's my unit rate. Is it changing at a constant rate of change? And so it's asking, is the total cost proportional? And because I can put 0, 0 in there, that's an automatic yes. Yes, it is proportional. So pretty basic, pretty simple. If you can put 0, 0 and it works within that table, it's going to be a proportional relationship. And that's what you're doing today. Is it proportional or not? A soccer club has 15 players for every team, with the exception of 2 teams that have 16 players each. Is the number of players proportional to the number of teams? So we have teams, which is our X value. And then we've got, what are we relating that to? We're relating that to the number of players that we have. This one's kind of tricky because you got to think kind of differently. But they have 15 players for every team. So but they have 16 players in each of 2 teams. So if I have one team, I might have the 16 players. If I have a second team, they might have 16 players. So is this really setting up proportional? Is the number of players proportional to the number of teams? So if I have 2 teams, that might be 32 because 16 and 16 on 2 of those teams. But if I add a third team, it says there's 15 players for every team here, with the exception of those 2 teams. So now if I decide I want to add 15 players to what I had before, this would become 47. And on the 4th team, I add 15 players to this. And that gives me 62. So I know from here to here, I added 16, but from here to here, what did I add? And so that's a difference of 15. And then from here to here, I add 15. So is it really proportional? Which means if I go back to 0, I could consider it 0, 0 because it's not where I started from. But just looking at the rate of change and how it changed right here, I know that this is not going to be proportional. So from the get-go, no, non-proportional. And we'll keep it very simple and very basic, okay? So your task and your job and your classwork will be to say, is this a proportional relationship or is it not, based on the information that's given in a table, and how I can determine if I can do that is to, again, compare the two, but put your y over your x value and set up all of the fractions and see if they're equivalent or not. Okay, we want to make sure that we're going to pull these notes up and we're going to place them in the right location inside of your journal. And so we are on Reteach Lesson 4. So moving over to your journal, reaching for my journal here, and we should be going into our table of contents to write down our information there. And so we did do convert unit rates before, lesson 2-3. So we are on page 23 right now. You should be getting towards the end of the bottom of your lines here, and that's 2-4. And on 2-4, we were doing proportional versus non-proportional. Proportional versus non-proportional relationships. And so it's kind of long to get that all written out there. Proportional versus non-proportional relationships. And this is 2-4. So we'll be switching over to page 23. If you need to take a break to glue that in, you'll be turning this sideways onto page 23. All right, we're ready to do some practice.